Hi, my name is Haley McCollum, and I'm here to talk to you today about constructivism. So, what is it? It's a learning theory that states that students construct their own understanding and knowledge of the world. They use outside experiences, hand-on approach to learning, and active participation. So, they're basically using knowledge of subjects and things that they found in the outside world and taking them into the classroom. A good example would be like if you did a nature project with students, and they would you could ask them if they've eaten what kind of vegetables they've eaten, and some of them probably haven't because not a lot of people, there's certain things that they don't get, like fruits, for example. There's a lot of fruits that people don't get, like papayas or a mango even. Some students have never had that before, so taking that outside knowledge of certain fruits and bringing them into your classroom or veggies or whatever, you're kind of building on their knowledge to do your class. So who came up with this theory? Well, the key theorists behind this theory is John Plié and Jerome Bruner. And then there's two others that I like to mention, Lev Jovinsky and John Dewey. Now, John Plié is the father of constructivism, and he also came up with the cognitive learning theory, which is basically what constructivism is. They're learning through thinking. They're doing for themselves, basically, is what a student is doing. It's almost like a flipped classroom in a way. There's Jerome Bruner, and Bruner came up with a spiral way of learning where you build on subjects. So, when you're going through school and you think, we did this subject last year, you did some kind of math, and you build on it and you add on it, because that's what a spiral learning is that it builds up, and the more it builds up, the more it gives you like more of a challenge, basically, because that's why math gets harder, because you learn this subject, you learn this concept, and then you're going to build on it the next time. Lev Govinsky came up with the zone of proximal development, and John Dewey came up with child-centered instruction, which is like a flipped classroom in a way, where the student is basically doing this teaching, and the teacher kind of hangs back, but they're not out of the picture. So what's the difference between a traditional classroom and a constructivism classroom? Well, for one thing, constructivism classroom has no fixed curriculum, which means they can do a hidden curriculum. They can give you extra things, and it's not exactly wrote down in a book. So, you do the things in the book, of course, but you're going to add on to that knowledge by doing other things and having other subjects in your class that you wouldn't normally find. And there's, here we go. It's the interest of the students. Learning is interactive in a constructivism classroom, whereas in a traditional classroom, it's based on repetition. So it's like over and over, and that gets kind of boring to kids. But in constructivism classroom, they're interactive, so it's building on what they previously know. There's interactive teachers, where in a traditional classroom, the teacher's role is directive. It's rooted in authority. So, it's the teacher's way. The students don't get to really have a choice. But in a constructivist classroom, the teacher's role is active, and they go around and add things to what the students are saying, but it's basically the students that are doing the presentation, because they are presenting it to you. Assessments for a traditional classroom is testing and correct answers, which is fine for some classes, but in a constructivist classroom, they They include the students' works, observations, their point of views, as well as the tests. And the process is important as the product, which basically is saying that the students, what they're getting out of what you're teaching is what makes it a constructivist classroom, because they're taking their knowledge of what they just learned and applying it. And the grouping wise, students are usually in groups. They're pairs. Whereas in a traditional classroom, they're usually working alone, and some students do prefer that. But really, the group activities help them with social interaction and just gets them a part of the group. Manipulative materials are used in the classroom for a constructivist classroom, whereas in the traditional, it's usually just the workbooks and textbooks, and word pages are fine, but kids want to be hands-on. This is what a constructivist classroom is. Of course, there's big concepts as well. They emphasize the big concepts and expanding the whole to include the parts. So, it's like the traditional classroom says, okay, we're gonna start with this, and it's just the basic skills. Whereas in constructivist classroom is the whole thing. So it's got the hidden curriculum inside. So what is the PAR model? Present, apply, review. It was made by Jeff Petty, and it's to maximize learning retention. So why is this important? Well, for a constructivist classroom, the PAR model, present, apply, review, PAR, helps students, and it kind of gets them into a mode of them doing the teaching. So you have a student that presents to the class, and it's not the teacher that's doing it, it's the student that's doing it. They're saying, this is what we're learning about, this is what we're going to do. It's almost like they are doing the experiment, and they're going to apply the knowledge and then review it. So a good scenario to me would be a science experiment where you present, so you introduce it to the class. You as the teacher, you introduce it to the class, give them a graphic organizer or the steps of an experiment, and then the students get to apply that and apply their knowledge, and they work together in groups to do this experiment, and then they review it by revisiting the same little experiment by themselves, to figure out if they've understood the concept. So that was what a constructivism classroom would be like. Thank you for paying attention.